Right, so your YouTube link, if you wish to send it out, is this one here. Right, and we're good to go. So we're now live on YouTube. My name is Jermaine AKA Jay, and joining me to talk about the big topic that is COVID-19/lockdown. I've got a very interesting panel, and it's a large panel because it's a deep and very big topic. So welcome, guys.
Hello.
Who's ready to chat lockdown and COVID?
Yeah, me.
Everybody, I think.
Yeah, let's literally just get straight into it. So obviously we're all from different places. As the chat goes on, we'll kind of find out a bit more about where we're from. But in terms of locations, I believe we've got 2 people that's not in the UK. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if you're not from the UK, just state where you're from.
I'm from the Bronx, New York, in the United States.
And I am in Spain by Alicante.
Nice. So the rest of us are sort of scattered across the UK. So we've been now facing this coronavirus/lockdown kind of pandemic situation now for coming very close to a year. How are we feeling about it? Like, you know, is it not a smiley situation anymore? Is it not a topic that you kind of want to discuss with people anymore? Like, what's the kind of feel, what's the kind of vibes now that we're kind of in 2021 and it's still a big thing?
I mean, well, it's definitely not a smiley situation anymore. If we look back to where we were exactly a year ago,
yeah.
The whole topic was starting to hit the news in Europe. Of course, we knew already something was going on, but I think back then, at least I can speak for myself, I still thought, okay, fine, it's probably another sort of flu. You know, they'll get it under control. We're in Europe. You know, we have got the resources, the money, the education for it, the doctors, the hospitals. And now, 1 year after, you would have thought at least it would have been under control. But here in Spain, for example, we're right now in our 3rd wave already, and it's the worst since the start. It's very, very bad, especially in the town I live in. I would have thought by now something would be already under control, but who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we all thought, oh, there's going to be a solution to it. But I know that I think for a lot of people, we weren't expecting it to go on this long and there to be that many waves. And again, it gets better, then it gets worse. And my family's from Spain and my mum still lives over there. And a big problem with Spain specifically is people don't take stuff seriously. I mean, you think UK problems,
exactly.
And it's okay.
On top of that as well, with the Spanish people, is not only that they don't really take it that serious, but also it's not compatible at all with the Spanish lifestyle. The Spanish lifestyle is constantly being with family, with friends, being outside, eating out, being in the bars, in the cafes, at the beaches, and to tell them they have to stay home, they're not allowed to do this, they can't do that because they don't have the justification. It's completely absurd for them.
Yeah.
So in the United States, it's like the same, especially in New York City. People don't know how to stay home. It's really, really unfortunate because in New York, it's a bustling city. I live like 20 minutes from Manhattan. Before COVID, I'm a freelancer, so I would go everywhere all the time. I would be in all the different boroughs in New York City. I would eat out all the time. I would go to bars all the time, hang out with friends all the time. So COVID was a really harsh adjustment. And a lot of New Yorkers, especially people my age, like younger, 24 in their 20s, you know, that's the time to have fun. And a lot of people are unfortunately being very selfish and choosing to, you know, there have been like illegal bar gatherings. There have been parties, you know, I've seen people like have parties, people who do concerts still,
Sure.
all that stuff.
Sure. I think, do you know what's interesting? And this will sort of, I guess, set us up for the rest of the chat. So obviously this is now coming close to a year that we've been aware of this pandemic. And obviously since the start to where we are now, we've been told a fair few amount of different, you know, kind of facts. So, for instance, here in the UK, I remember it was the case of, okay, so we're not too sure what this is. So these are the guidelines, these are the rules. So then people got used to that. And then it was like, if I know you've got to start wearing masks, then it was actually, no, don't wear masks because it's actually not that good for you. Then it's like, okay, no, you have to. So there's so many like do's and don'ts and so many chops and changes. And, you know, we're now here at the point where this is like such a devastating situation, like the whole pandemic, that some people don't take it seriously because they're not sure if they should take it seriously, if that makes sense. Because I've spoken to a few people who are just like, well, like, is it meant to be serious? Because if it was meant to be serious, why didn't we do certain things, you know, beforehand and so forth? So, I mean, here we are now, as you said, with some people kind of not actually adhering to the rules and still continuing to live their life as
on that take it serious subject. For me, like there's some issues that I have with that. It's like, for me, like the mask being mandatory and stuff like that. For me, it's like if you're gonna make masks mandatory, at least it's like you could wear anything and nobody's bothered about what mask it is. Or you could just get a mask that doesn't work, and as long as you're wearing that mask. So if that's how the government is treating it, how can people take it seriously? Why would, like, you would have thought that they would drop the mask, drop people masks like for free and stuff like that, so that they know that people are wearing the correct masks, like not masks that could just, because you know you can get a mask and you could spray through the mask. How is that mask helping everybody?
Yeah, that's a very good observation, because I remember that the mandatory law, the whole, you know, making masks mandatory, when that came in, there was one in particular manufacturer who done all the PPEs for like frontline workers and so forth. But then shortly after that, every single person, like Nike started coming up with their own. Every single retail shop, you know, you can just go online and get your own custom made masks. And to be fair, you're right. There is no filtering system. After 4 hours, they become useless because they're contaminated and the rest of it. And, you know, and even with the disposable masks, are you actually disposing of them, or are you just sticking it in the car and when you where is the next day?
Sticking it in the car.
So with that, it's like, for me, it's like, are the government taking it seriously? Because it's like, I could just, for me, if it was as serious as they're making it out, why, like, even essential shops we shouldn't be able to travel to essential shops if that's the case. If it's as serious as they're making it out, you know, there should be more deliveries, more. Do you get what I'm trying to say? But it's just like, we've still got freedom there. We've still got freedom to go here and there and everywhere. And it's like they've set it in place for their benefit. So whatever, in a way where it still benefits them, but we're on lockdown, basically. I don't know if you're understanding how I'm trying to.
I think I know what you're trying to say, and I'm going to say it as well very carefully, because at the end of the day, it is a very sensitive topic. But I think the government takes it as seriously as it is in their own interest. You know, it's like as if it was already they've got us. Also, I'm pretty sure as well that even the government was taken by surprise when this whole thing started. I don't think every single government could have acted 100% on it, but I still believe that they had more than enough information than they've ever led us to believe they had. And then out of this whole thing, they would feed parts of information depending on how the situation was going in each country, what was of interest, what was of less interest. Like, for example, I mean, I don't understand of any of that. I only have got my opinion. I'm no politician or nothing. But in my opinion, for example, the very first thing, knowing from the start how fast it was spreading, the very first thing that should have been shut down absolutely everywhere would have been public transport. Yet that was really kind of even encouraged. Shops were closed down, in some countries sooner and others later, but shops were closed down, schools were closed down, but public transport was always going on. Always going on.
Flights were still so it started in Wuhan, and flights from China was still coming in. So that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what? I think, and we'll get everyone's opinion on this one, but there's definitely now when it comes to people saying, you know, here comes those that, you know, what's the word? Here comes those that believe in those theories and all the rest of it, right? I'm a person that believes that if you don't give me enough truth to believe what you are saying to be true, then you leave a room of doubt, which then leaves my mind to wonder and come up with my own truth. And I think that's dangerous, because at that point, my version of the truth is not necessarily correct. But if I don't know nothing else to be the truth, then I have to go with this. So again, I've spoken to countless people about the origin of the virus, and every single person has a different, you know, well, I believe it's this, I believe it's this, you know, because what we've been told is it doesn't add up, or some of it adds up, or we were told this, but then later on it was changed to this, and then, you know. So what's your take?
The first thing I heard about what the origin was, a bat was eaten in Wuhan.
Yeah, the bat.
A type of bat was eaten.
The old bats.
Yeah, so it's that itself is confusing. And one other thing is, when this virus first when we first started to see the virus take place in Wuhan, they were showing us images of people dead on the floor. I remember it clearly. Like there was a car driving through the town, and there was just bodies lying around. Why are all them videos gone? why is that agenda not being pushed anymore? And then I think a few days after that, or a week after that, the people from Wuhan was marching around saying that it's fake, that it's not real, they're lying, all of those bodies were not real. So all of these things add up, and if you don't question it, then for me, if I don't question what I'm being told, and there's all of these other things, I feel like I'm a sheep, to be honest with you.
Yeah, questioning's good. Like, and the thing is, it is good to, like, if you don't believe something's right, you should always think, well, what am I being told? And I think a lot of people as well, if you ask most people, they think there's something dodgy. They don't know what it is, but they think something's not right, and that's the consensus. But there are a few people who, like, are the extreme, where it's like,
oh yeah,
like, you know, and kind of like with someone who's extremely devout in religion, no matter what you say, they will find a way to make it make sense.
Yeah.
They will back and be like, fair enough, that's your opinion. It is that, and there is no moving him for it. I personally think it's a bit dodgy, but if someone can give me proof, like you said, all right, I'm willing to look at it, you know?
And the thing is, when you do try to discuss it with somebody who's diehard, they just, it's like they get angry when you, at the fact that you're asking questions. So you're not allowed to ask questions, they just get angry.
Yeah.
Flip side though, you have people who are diehard, corona's real, we're all gonna die.
That's what I mean. Like those people that are diehard, and they're like, oh, there's nothing wrong with the vaccine, and they're pro-vaccines and all of that. When you ask any questions, if like, for example, if I go on Instagram and there was a post the other day, and someone was trying to take their dad out of the hospital, and the doctors was like, oh, you can't take him out, he's gonna die if you take him, blah blah blah. So obviously I'm not saying that it's right that they take him out. I'm not saying that, because like I'm not a scientist, I'm not a doctor, so I'm not saying that's right. But what I'm saying is, all I commented on the post was, that hospital doesn't look too busy. Oh, are you trying to say that it's not like there's bunk beds? And everybody started attacking me. And I'm saying, all I'm saying is, it doesn't look as busy as they're making it out to be in that hospital. That hospital looks very empty. It looks very quiet. The way that they're making out, like it's rush, and the nurses are rushing around, and it didn't look like that in that video. It looked like one man was just, and the only noise I could hear was the family trying to take him out of the room. Everybody's attacking me for that one comment.
Yeah.
One comment, and all I said was, it doesn't look busy. No,
it's yeah. I mean, Adam, like on your side of things, obviously you've had to like how's work for you, and I guess with the whole lockdown thing, because that's another effect, isn't it? Of
lockdown. I mean, obviously it's a very touchy subject, isn't it? That everyone's obviously got their own opinions and stuff. I always try and stay like impartial. So like from the first lockdown, I had to adapt my business from meeting people in person to 100% remote, that kind of thing. So that was like the first lockdown phase for me. I just kept myself to myself, just stayed inside, just abided by the rules, because like you say, I just followed what the guidelines were the first lockdown, which is fine. And the second lockdown, I kind of like sorted my shit out, because obviously after the first lockdown, everyone just went out because it was hot and sunny, wasn't it? Going to see the friends, socially distance, obviously, enjoy yourself, that kind of thing. And then the second lockdown, I kind of thought, oh, I've just had a massive blowout here, and kind of like changed my perspective on life. And I've been going sober since end of August. So I was going out like every weekend, that kind of thing, partying till whatever time in the morning. And decided, right, I'm going to sort myself out, make this lockdown, use it to its full effect. So yeah, end of August went sober, and then November, that lockdown, I just stayed inside, kept myself to myself, really focused on my business, knuckled down, that kind of thing. And then when it came to Christmas, obviously we were allowed outside, weren't we? Well, we were allowed out within however many people it was, and then when it comes to like New Year's Eve, they say, oh, everyone's on lockdown again. And it's just like, what was the point of saying we can go out and socialize over Christmas? And then everyone's spread it, haven't they? So they say it's spread it. And then even worse position now. And then this lockdown, I've just been staying inside, just keeping my head down. And just, I try not to pay too much attention to all the news, because it's so negative, and just hearing about coronavirus all the time. Just does your head in, doesn't it? And it gets you down. So I just keep the news off, and Twitter is probably the worst place for it. So stay off Twitter, because people are always chirping their opinion and stuff. So yeah, I just try and block everything out and just keep tunnel vision, really focus on myself, and just, I want to come out.
I guess the question is, how long can we do that for? How long are we going to be doing that for? Because again, so we've got is it GCSE? Has GCSEs been cancelled this year?
I'm not sure.
Or they haven't they?
In final year.
A-level.
A-level.
I think it's A-level, is it?
Yeah, I do A-levels and mine have been cancelled, and I've GCSEs have as well, yeah.
So do they, so what happens? Do you just get predicted grades or just nothing?
So they're sort of like assessing everything, because I obviously do A-levels for 2 years. So they assess everything I've done over the past year, which most of it wasn't even in college anyway. So there's not much they can actually assess, because at the minute they can only assess things you've done in a classroom setting, not things you've done at home. But I do think they're going to have to change that, because obviously there's not much we've actually done in class. And then they just put all that together and just look at what, from them grades you've done in like assessed situations, what they believe your grade would be, as well as like if they believe you might have made a bit of improvement as well. It's hard for them, obviously, because some people as well, they have to fail because they were going to fail.
Yeah.
but obviously
Yeah.
that's well.
Yeah, no, of course, of course. And I think that's the hardest thing, isn't it? This whole situation from last year to this year um, doesn't seem to have gotten any better. Now, let's talk on the actual let's talk on the actual lockdown effects. The effect that lockdown has on an individual. So we're talking about individuals who are locked down alone, with family, with, I don't know, people they don't like. We're forced into these situations, and it has been tough, and it has been for longer than I guess anyone could have predicted. I'm not sure over in the US, is it different to how we're having it here? Like, have you guys had 3 lockdowns yet, or is it?
Okay, so no. I think
Okay.
we've only had one, like
Think
legit.
you've had one. So it wasn't.
We only had one. So we had one in like March of last year.
Okay.
And what we've had are like soft lockdowns. So let's say like the numbers go a little bit up, then the restaurants close, but they're still outdoor dining. They're finding ways to cut off or like certain businesses that would have a lot of big congregations. But other than that, it's been terrible that America has not been as responsible as like the UK.
We haven't been
Is
responsible.
this because your ex president said that the US will just have to deal with it because Americans are strong and they'll always survive.
I mean, speaking of from before, like fake news and things that aren't real, because of Trump. I mean, fake news was already a big thing before Trump, but Trump kind of like made it huge.
Yeah.
So, and I know people like in my circle, not like close friends, but like family, like distant friends, like friends of a friend,
Yeah.
who were Trump supporters and really thought that the COVID was a hoax. And it's really unfortunate because then there are people like me who want to be careful and want to, because I actually did have COVID. I had COVID in the beginning of the lockdown. I had it in April, and around April. I had a very mild version of it and I got through, but my whole family got it. I got it, my mom got it, my dad, my sister, my grandma got it. She made it through. My aunt and uncle who lived with her got it. And then their kids, I think, also got it because they all lived together. And it was really scary. And like I made it through okay, but my antibodies left within 3 months.
Yeah.
So I could still get sick again. And my boyfriend lives with his 80-year-old grandma, and it's like I want to see him and be with him as much as I can. So I have to make it a point to always be careful, but there are people around me who don't care. They're in America, and I guess maybe in the UK, it might be the same deal. And even in Spain, there's like a very big selfishness. There's like, oh, it's my life. I want to have fun. And it's not like thinking about the collective, not thinking about everyone around you. So it's been really, really tough, talking about being at home and being with people who aren't responsible. I'm in that sort of situation, and it's been very taxing. Like I've had to sublet other apartments so I could live by myself when COVID gets really, really, really bad, just so I can still live my life and be with the people I care about without worrying about getting them sick.
Of course. Yeah. And I think, yeah, that's the toughest part, isn't it? It's strange because we're in this situation now, right? And it's been described as, the worst thing since I don't know when, right? And it's a war on the human race in terms of this virus is just rampant. It's taken out so many people across the globe, right? Now, this is the case, and I've seen the numbers of infected, the numbers of deaths, hospitalized, all of that. And every day they go up, and I believe the UK something, I'm not sure what the numbers are now, but we have some of the worst death toll across the globe when it comes to COVID. But then again, the data was off because people who died of suspected COVID later on was actually, the investigation found out that actually, regardless of COVID or not, they would have died because they had these underlying health issues and so forth. So I think this is, again, a topic of conversation of how deadly is COVID compared to how deadly it's made to seem. My family and I have had COVID back in November. I'm not sure if any of you have also. And after about 7 or 8 days, we made it through fine. And I mean, it was tough for a couple of days, but you know, we've been fine since. And I've known a couple of people who have had it. Now, my issue isn't whether or not COVID is real or not. My issue is, you know, what is the truth behind COVID? And the only reason I say that is because when when you look at history, you know, the human race has always put two things above human life, and that's always been power and money. And, you know, human life has always come, you know, far beneath those. So if this pandemic is as dangerous and wild and just, you know, destructive as it's been made to seem from our governing bodies, it just strikes me as a little bit suspicious that certain things aren't put in place sooner or at a higher level than what it is now. As we've seen, and Adam, you completely said it. We've had tough restrictions and then completely eased for a long period of time, which would then obviously, in anyone's head, you know, would know that the rates will definitely spread again. And then we go back into another lockdown, and then it's eased completely again, and then we go back into another lockdown. Now, the powers that be who we entrust with governing our nations, who should be some of the smartest elects and you know, all this kind of thing, it just seems to me that the care that should be taken for human life isn't really there to that extreme. And I remember before the mask became mandatory, before the lines and the queuing and the amount of people within shops, you know, before those PPEs and stuff came about, we had weeks upon weeks where we were just strolling around. I was still going into central London on the underground. I mean, jam-packed with people. I mean, completely rubbing face with people for weeks on end. And then people were told, maybe let's wear masks. And then it was actually, don't wear masks because you'll spread the virus even more so then. So then people stopped wearing masks. And then the numbers started rising again. And it was like, yes, this is a new virus, but it's not a new, like, it's a crisis. And surely you would think that the world is ready for crisis because we've dealt with them on several occasions. So it was just a little bit.
Been treated like a joke. Like, don't you remember in summer where you know, literally had to wear a mask to go into Tesco and everywhere else, but they're doing the eat out to help out, and now 40 people with their mask off. Like, what's that about? Literally queuing outside, then you go into a restaurant, there's about 60 people to 40 people with the mask off. You have to take it off when you're in the restaurant.
Yeah. And the thing is, when it was like the rule of 6 as well, wasn't it? You could go with 6 people, and then now it was, well, the last one, it was only, you could only go with people in your household, that kind of thing, but they would never check.
Makes no sense. Then you had to order a substantial meal when you went.
Yeah, I mean, what's our thoughts on the whole bubble system? I'm not sure in America, have you got, or Spain, have you got the bubble system where you're only allowed in certain bubbles outside of, so like you can only meet up with like your immediate family, those who you live with, alongside maybe one other person.
Yeah, but that number here, at least in Spain, it changes constantly, you know. When it was Christmas time, you know, you were allowed a few people more. Then Christmas time was over, then they reduced the number again. I mean, it's just, I mean, just getting back to what you were saying earlier on, some things just don't seem right. Am I a conspiracy theorist? No, I'm not. But I do believe in wherever you don't give, enough information, of course, people are going to speculate. Just like, you know, in normal day-by-day situations, in routine life, when.
But what is a conspiracy theorist, though? So that I keep hearing that word get thrown around, and it's like everybody's ashamed of that whole. What is that? I don't understand it. It's like, what is it?
Do you know what it is?
Yeah.
I think you're called a conspiracy theorist if you think contrary to what
you're being
government,
told, basically.
of what you're told.
But
And
at the end of the day, though, it's like at the end of the day, they've not given us a lot to trust. Like, there's a lot of things that's happened in my lifetime. I'm only 29 years old. There's a lot of things that's happened in my lifetime. I guarantee you, if you spoke to somebody who's, let's say, 80, 90 years old, and they was somebody who asked questions, not somebody who just followed things, and somebody who asked questions, they would have a lot of things to say about a lot of things that's taking place in the world. You know what I'm saying? So all of this like conspiracy theories, that term was made to shut people down, basically. It was made to make somebody look stupid for asking questions. So it
come from somewhere, though.
Don't be ashamed. For me, I don't feel ashamed that I'm not saying that COVID isn't real. I'm not saying it's not real. I'm not like, but what I am saying is I got sick. I was sick for 1 day. My daughter was sick for 1 day. Put it this way, my daughter, one of my daughters was sick. She got over it the next day. My other daughter was sick. She got over it by the next day. I got sick. That lasted 1 day. Then my wife got sick. She was sick for about a week. She was sick, and she started to say she couldn't smell. She thinks she's got COVID. She's all right now, but it goes back to what you were saying. How strong is this thing? Like, what is it?
So I would say
dying of COVID, or are they dying because they've got health issues?
Yeah, one thing I saw on Twitter, and I quite like stats and figures and numbers and kind of thing, and it was a graph saying since March last year, there's been no cases of influenza, which is the flu. And I thought that seems a bit suspicious.
Funny.
So I was like on the World Health Organization's website. So I thought, right, I'm going to double check if that's true or not, because that's going to be a fact. So I went on the World Health Organization's like reporting, whatever it has been since last March, and there's been no cases of flu/influenza reported since last March, which is crazy. And someone said basically, has the world found the cure for the flu, or is it just a technology to use?
Or is everything just COVID now? Because I can go into the shop and cough. People cough. People have smoker's cough. Someone could have a smoker's cough, go into the shop, cough. Everyone's looking at him like he's got COVID.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. So I mean, what's quite interesting is people would say that, of course, you know, COVID's real. And I at the start of it, I was like, do I know anyone who's had COVID? Do you know? And everyone's like, no, March, April, May. Do you know? No, don't know anyone who have COVID at all. And the reason why I had to get tested for COVID was because I started a new contract, and in order to go into the office, they were like, okay, you need to take a test. Prior to that, literally about a day before that, my daughter's school, they basically rang and said, we've had a case in the other year 2 class, but it's not within your child's bubble. She's fine. Those who the other girls come in contact with in her bubble, we've told them to isolate. So I then started thinking, wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense. We were told that the virus would not affect kids, and if it does, it will be very mild. Which is, you know, when we all tested positive, my kids only had it for about 2 days or so. But we were also told that they're super carriers. So my thing was, the whole of the UK, in fact, people lost their jobs, people lost their home, their livelihood, all sorts, that the government said, do you know what? This virus is so deadly that we have to, you know, whatever is lost is lost. Now, how can you put education above human life? My daughter and my son continue to go to school. in this bubble system that they created. Now, the same teacher is going from bubble to bubble. So that already does not make any sense to me. Also, the bubble system doesn't come into play outside of the classroom. So they actually interact with each other outside of the classroom.
That's mad.
And you know, it was literally because I got tested, my family got tested as well. Then we all came back positive COVID. And then there was 2 other cases within the school, and it just went on from there. So my whole thing is, if this is so rampant, why is it that schools weren't being closed?
I think it's just very weird that, I mean, don't be wrong, there's people on this call who have had it, but I can tell you something, like, do you remember when swine flu came out?
Well, I don't know what I had. I was told that I had COVID because the test came back and told me I had COVID.
Exactly the same symptoms, though. It's like a super flu, but I can tell you something. I actually almost died from swine flu, and I've not had COVID. And I'm one of these people that when I heard the pandemic was out, I was like, "That's it. That's my number up. I'm gonna die," because I with everything. And it seems like a super flu. It just seems like a very aggressive kind of flu. I mean, I haven't had it, but it seems similar to the swine flu.
I mean, it is real, yes, and it is very strong. But does that mean that suddenly all other diseases and illnesses in history of health and have disappeared? Nobody's dying of anything else anymore than just COVID?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think that's the annoying part. Sorry?
It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't.
The annoying part for me is, and it kind of leads me to kind of hence the reason why I wanted to talk to you guys, right? Prior to where we are now, we were told, actually, this thing, we can get this under control within 3 months.
Yeah.
If you do said things. Okay, fine. At the start, people were a little bit reluctant, but I have to say, I did notice that during our first lockdown, towards the sort of middle, towards the end, there was no one out, no one was doing anything. Everyone's complaining that they're just stuck indoors. Okay, now I would say that at least 80% of our population were adhering to the rules and staying indoors. One, because there was absolutely nothing to do. Okay, now if that was, and people were happy to go out in their gardens and just have the windows open, it was sunny. Now, if that's the case, I then said to myself, so when we came back out of lockdown, we should have 100% or near enough 100% gotten rid of a lot of viruses that were out there, including the common cold. Because whoever had the common cold, as we locked down, common cold is a virus and can only be spread through, it's not like it's in the atmosphere. So really and truly, things like the common cold shouldn't be rampant anyway. Now, it's funny enough that you read that stat, Adam, about about the cold not being reports of it and so forth. Yeah. I've spoken to a lot of people who have said they've had the cold. Oh, they've come down with something, they don't know why. They're scared that it's corona, but then they're like, actually, no, it's just a cold. Because there were symptoms that weren't associated with the virus. Anyways, there was that. My kids came on with a cold even before the whole pandemic stuff. Anyway, we were told that we were going to be out of this whole pandemic in a matter of, I don't know, months or whatever it was, right? When I was speaking to someone, they were like, "Oh no, we will be." They said we'll be out before. This was the second lockdown. They said we'll be out before Christmas and everything will be fine. I said, well, as history would have it, they also said that the war would end before Christmas, and wives will have their husbands back, kids will have their dads back for Christmas, and it lasted another 3.5 years after that. So really and truly, we will always get told, oh, don't worry, we'll always be treated like kids, because that's just the way the system's always set. Don't worry, we'll be out of it in no time. How long? And then when you ask the question, how long? Normally, if my daughter says, Dad, can you do this? I'm like, all right, Jay, just give me a minute. She'll be like, how long? I'm like, yeah, 2 minutes and I'll be there. I know it's not 2 minutes, but I know she'll be happy. Okay, 2 minutes, fine. And I feel like that's how we've been treated. We've been treated. Don't worry, guys. We'll be out of it soon. We'll be out of it within 3 months. So everyone's sort of time watching, going, right, so they said by the 2nd of March. So then when the 2nd of March comes, they're like, actually, we've got to do a little bit longer. People then say, oh, well, we've been through this for the last 3 months. We could wait another 2 weeks. And then, oh, we could wait another 2 weeks. And then what happens, we get to this stage where we're at now, where we then are nearly a year along. We have no other hope, no other choice out there, but to be accepting of this vaccine, because that is the only cure. We've tried lockdown. So this is what I believe the books are. We've tried, what have we tried? Lockdown. That didn't work. We've tried PPE. That doesn't work. Social distancing. We've tried, propaganda, whatever. All of that stuff haven't worked. What do we have to do now? The vaccine is the only.
Who's to say it doesn't work? Who's to say it doesn't work though?
Well, look at the numbers. This is what I'm saying.
Well,
if you look at the numbers,
well, who's coming up with these numbers though?
But that's the thing. At the moment, remember, regardless of what we say, right? We are not coming out. Those shops aren't opening until the government say you can open.
Yeah, of course.
So how do they?
My problem is though. Sorry to cut you, but my problem is though. Cancer is real, but it's also a business.
Yeah.
They also make a lot of money from cancer. So Cardi B posted. I think it was yesterday. I saw a post of Cardi B saying that every photo shoot she does, everybody has to get a COVID test, and it costs $250 every time. That's a very lucrative business.
Yeah.
If you think about it, like every time a group of people are getting tested, they're getting a large sum of money. You see what I'm saying? So for me, I feel like for years, from when I was a teenager, I remember being a teenager and the older people around me, there was a couple people that was into reading and stuff like that, and they was into it. There was a lot of I could go deep into it, but I'm just gonna keep it on the surface. And they told me a lot of things were gonna happen, and a lot of those things that they said was gonna happen are happening. Like today, so I've been mentally prepared for this for years. So when this happened, I thought when Ebola kicked off, I was working in King's College Hospital at the time, in infection prevention and control department. So I was the one folding all the PPE and bringing the PPE costume uniforms to all the nurses and the doctors. When that happened, when Ebola was happening, I thought that was what is happening. I thought that was going to cause what's happening now. Then, so I've been mentally prepared for this. Why is it that somebody in the early 2000s could tell me that something like this is going to happen and it's happening now?
Yeah.
Because they've read somewhere that the government, what they do is it's called programming. What's it? I think it's called it's got another name, programming something. But it's something that I've known for long. A lot of my people we've known for long, because and if we talk about these things, and a lot of people don't like to talk about these things because I think her name's Natalie. Sorry, I forget the names. It's like you were ashamed to be called a conspiracy theorist if we talk about these things that we know.
Yeah. So the question is, where do we go from here? So the whole world is on lockdown. Flights in, flights out, cancelled, travels cancelled. You can't leave your house but to exercise, go to essential shops. But then what is essential? Because again, what's essential to you isn't essential to me. But people losing their businesses, people losing their homes, people losing their minds more than anything else. And that's a greater impact, I think, than anything else. But the question is, like, where do you guys think we're going to go from here? Like, what is happening?
Me, I'm within two mindsets with this. For me, I feel like on one hand, I feel like we shouldn't be listening to what we're told and not doing anything about it. People shouldn't be having to close down their businesses. People shouldn't be in the house depressed and because over things that they can't see themselves and stuff like that. It's just someone's word. They're saying that this is terrible and this is what's happening here and this is what's happening there, but we can't see that. We're in our houses depressed, and I'm not depressed per se, but there's a lot of people in their houses depressed, and there's a lot of suicide. Suicide has gone up quite a lot since the first lockdown. My thing is, I'm either overthrow the government or do as we're told. That's the two choices I feel like we have. We do as we're told because we don't know, we don't have all the answers, or we fight against it because
well,
so
I think the only issue, the issue that we have is this isn't just a UK thing, you know. This isn't just a European thing. It's a worldwide issue that we're facing on a
sorry to cut you, but which is think about it. How long have you been hearing about what the New World Order? How long have you been hearing about that? You've been hearing about that for years, right? Yeah. So you've been hearing about martial law for years, right? Yeah. So isn't this something that, in order for something to play out, something has to happen in order for it to play out? You know, you can't just martial law, New World Order. So how do we know that this isn't their setup to making it one world order?
Because everyone's divided. Like, if you think about last year, you had this massive thing about Trump, then you had the Black Lives Matter, where you have really racists coming out and other people, like, and then it happened in the UK. Bare people are still divided over stuff. Now, is the corona real? Is it not? So people are at each other's throats. They're locked up. They're angry. They're depressed. And people are scared. So if the case, probably now is the best time they could do it, because people are frightened and people are angry, and they're blaming.
And you know, it's just, for me, it's a thing of, it's like there's a method behind everything. You can't just randomly just lock everyone down and start sending army into their houses. There's got to be a reason behind it. You get what I'm saying? They can't have just come out of nowhere and just start saying, yeah, stay in your house, or where they have to. And this seems like the perfect opportunity to me.
So I've been speaking to individuals who, so this is the trail of thought. Here comes a virus. How do we tackle it? If we're amongst each other, then we spread it. So what we have to do is stay apart so that, you know, that will reduce the spread. How do we make sure that it doesn't spread again? We get a vaccine to cure or to prevent the spread of the virus. And it's that simple. Please give us the vaccine so that we can go back to our daily lives. We've been in lockdown for far too long. We're getting tired of this now. It's almost when you're hungry and you'll just eat anything that comes along. Like, you're just like, do you know what? I'm just give it to me. Let me just, you know what I mean? Like, I'm hungry. Just
the vaccines ain't even they're not even saying to us that the vaccines are gonna get us back to normal.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's enough to get us back to a better way of living. So you see,
have you even what's his name, Dr. Fauci, whatever his name is, even he's saying you can't, it's not the vaccine is not gonna cure you, it's not gonna make you immune. No. It's just, and if you think about it, why are how can they just come up with a vaccine so quickly? Why is there a vaccine so, and remember, whenever they make a vaccine, they've got they put in place I can't remember what they're called, clause or whatever they're called, where you can't sue them, basically.
So that was addressed. So what happened was prior to COVID-19, there have been other coronaviruses out there. Now, apparently, it's been over a decade plus since they've been trying to tackle the actual coronavirus itself. But there's also other strains of diseases that they've been working on as well. So apparently, what's happened is, it's not out of the blue that they've come up with a vaccine in no time. It's because they're already working on a COVID sample, as it were, vaccine. And with the amount of money and the urgency of COVID-19, they've managed to skip a few steps in terms of a few ticks of approvals or whatever it is to kind of get us to where we are now, because the human race depended on it. And obviously, you know, we now have, is it three different different vaccines.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how many.
Yeah.
The last count I saw was 3. I think
Yeah.
it was sometime last week that we had available to us. And apparently about 80% of the elderly have received it already. Then obviously it then trickles down to the rest of us.
I think as well, the thing that baffles me is that obviously in the UK we're an island, aren't we? We should have closed the flight borders
Yeah.
sooner and done the
100%.
coronavirus tests in and out, which we've just started to implement, haven't we? Whereas like Australia and New Zealand, they seem to be going back to some sense of normality because they've been a lot stricter than we have. I feel
Why didn't we?
And they just got over it. They just got over a fire, a big fire as well. And you know what I'm saying?
Boris,
but why?
Boris
No, but I think you see when we say things like, "Oh my gosh, that baffles me," right? Or this confuses me, and then we just sort of move on. It's like, but why? If it's logic to you and it's sense to you, obviously, if you thought of it, the powers that be definitely would have as well. You know, the Prime Minister himself is the most powerful man in the country. Like he overpowers the Queen. You know, he tells the royal family, the Parliament tells the royal family what to do. So this powerful guy literally has so many advisors around him, and around those advisors have so many more advisors and so many more. And these are people who know more than you and I, right? Or you would think so. So the question is, if you're already saying, why didn't we lock down? Even now, our borders between sort of England going into Wales, and so people can travel freely still. There still isn't any sort of restrictions there, and it's like travel. People were still, wasn't it summertime? People still able to resume their flights.
It's just crazy how
these influencers, they're all in Dubai. If you look at
it's just crazy how we asked for it for so long for them to shut the borders because everywhere else did that. So it just seemed like a logical idea. It stops more people coming in and bringing it. It stops us taking it there. It stops new strains coming in and stuff like this. But then when they announced like a few weeks ago, whenever that they were going to start testing people, they've still then delayed that. And it's like, but this should have been done like last year when it first ever. As soon as it started, the first thing they should have done was like shut the borders and just keep it within our island.
So I work within IT, right? And as soon as there's any threat of hacking, a virus, penetration, anything like that, right? We shut all the doors. The server every computer becomes isolated. Every server becomes isolated. There is no traffic going in or out of that organization's network 100%, like it's completely shut down, right? And that is to secure the network, but also secure whoever else will be part of this network. And that is protocol 101. It's the same way in which when an individual contracts the like chicken pox or something, you say, listen, isolation, and you take the proper precautions. Again, as you said, why at the start was this not a thing? Do you remember when they said that the PPE, the mask and so forth was mandatory, but they gave us something like 4 days notice that it was going to be. This virus that was ready to kill us all and the rest of it is so deadly. But do you know what? Have 4 more days. Yeah.
I just want to say one thing that I heard before COVID came to America, or before it became like a pandemic. One of my coworkers at the job that I had before COVID was Chinese. She was my supervisor, and she had family in China, and family that was affected by the coronavirus when it first started. And she told me she was just like, China's not like telling anyone about this. So I think the reason why the rest of the world was ill prepared was because China was where it started, right? And they weren't talking about it. They weren't talking about the masks. Because I think I also heard from someone that they were not talking about the need for the masks because they wanted to keep the masks for themselves. So I think it was just an issue of maybe competitiveness. I don't know, but China for some reason wasn't very transparent about the virus for them, and then that's why the rest of the world wasn't as prepared.
And I hear that, and I've heard that also, and I'm one to say I don't need to be told that. So, for instance, now, right? If I was just told that this thing called COVID-19 was a thing, right, and it was so deadly, right? I don't need any more notice to make my plans. Do you know what? Okay, guys, let's get together. What is that we need to do? We need to do this, this, and this. And the reason I say that is the world has always been prepared for crisis, right? They're crisis teams. There's so many teams and governing bodies that are put in place to deal with crisis, regardless of what it is, regardless if the sun falls out the sky tomorrow, or an invasion, or some sort of virus has come through. I feel like there are teams and businesses put together to tackle this. Now, it was told that we weren't, the rest of the world weren't told about COVID-19, but then there was a report that was leaked and then after verified that back in November of 2018, sorry, when did COVID start? In 2019. So in 2018 November, that the rest of the world were actually told about COVID, but it wasn't told about the severity of it. Now, again, if you now know the severity of it, it's something that's baffling to you. It's something that you've never seen before and you don't understand it. Shut everything down. As you said, how do you stop something spreading? You shut your transport system. You don't continue to say, oh, well, whilst we investigate and see what this is, carry on as usual. It doesn't make any sense to me. And even when they did know what it was, we still had so much leeway. It was money. Absolutely bizarre.
And you know what? Just before we was like aware of how serious COVID actually hit China, I was saying to my wife, why do Chinese? I was asking her, why do a lot of Chinese people wear masks? Because I saw a group of them over here. They were standing somewhere, and I was driving past them, and a lot of them was just wearing masks. And then I thought to myself, even in China, I see videos of them all wearing masks. So they've been wearing masks. You see what I'm saying? So how comes it spread over there so quickly if they always wear masks?
Yeah, the pollution's bad over there, hence the reason why they keep wearing them. But that's very true. I don't know. Has anyone, apart from what we've said, has anyone got any other sort of ideas or way of thinking, or just anything else contrary to what we're saying?
I'm just hoping the vaccine helps somebody just get back to normal, because otherwise, if that doesn't work, I just feel like there's no hope, is there?
Yeah, like what is the alternative
next kind of thing? Like if that doesn't work, what's next? What are they going to say next? That's kind of thing. So
do you really think that we're going to be able to get back to the normal that we know as normal?
It will never go back to. I don't think it will ever go back to how we.
Yes, that's what I think as well. That's what I think as well. To a certain aspect, of course, and I hope, like everybody else, things will get better, of course. But I think rather than thinking about getting back to normal, I think the whole situation, call it what you want, government, whatever's going on, are trying to get us to adapt to our new normal that's going to be.
Yeah, which is control.
Yeah, but do you know what's so funny? Do you know what's so funny? There's a lot of people that will hear something like this and automatically say, "Oh, what are you talking about? Oh, you just saw in your head." But really and truly, honestly, like history was one of my favorite lessons. I never excelled in it because IT was always my passion. But why are we ignoring the fact that history has taught us how ruthless mankind are? Like we are a species that would do anything to in terms of power, we'll do anything for power or money. Like we'll enslave people for hundreds of years. We'll accommodate their countries and call it ours. We will kill, we will slay, we will make people poor so that we can stay rich. Like there is not much duty of care when it comes to those who lead this world. And it's funny that people have so much sort of loyalty towards these individuals who would use propaganda to send you to war, you know, when really and truly you didn't have to go to war, and all sorts of different things, and say, oh yeah, you're doing it for your country and so forth. And before you know it, there's families left without husbands and brothers and uncles and all the rest of it for the country, you know. And it's just a shame that we can't take a back seat and just say, okay, what is really going on? Maybe what is going on is exactly what's going on, but it's the fact that you dare not say anything contrary to what has been said. Otherwise, as we've mentioned, you're an extremist, you're a, you know, whatever words you want to use.
Because in society, if you think about it, for years and years and years, people are scared to speak out because we've been conditioned that as soon as you say something contrary, everyone around you turns on you.
Yeah.
Politicians have made it, oh, that train of thought is mad. Then, you know, in school, kids are told, oh, that's stupid. So it's always been that.
Look, history's been changed over and over again.
And again, I can only go off technology, but when you see that your old device is starting to act up, it is because the manufacturers want you to get the latest. There are software updates. There are software updates that take place that stops things from working on purpose, you know, and that's not conspiracy. That's facts right there. So it is one of those unfortunate situations, but it is a business, isn't it? This world.
Can I ask all of you a question quickly? In 20 years' time from today, do you believe that they're gonna relay this whole story the way it is now? Do you think that the children of that generation are gonna hear about COVID and it's just gonna be told exactly how it is now? Or do you think that they're gonna bury all of the questions that we had? They're gonna find a way to cover up all of those questions. What's you guys' opinion on that?
I don't know the answer to that question.
I would say it depends on who be telling the story. Whether it was the person telling the story who actually lived it, like you and me.
I'm talking about like in schools, like, you know, like how we, like in history, a lot of history has been changed. Like, for example, Christopher Columbus. All of you see where I'm going with this. So in 20 years' time, do you think that this story is going to be relayed the way that it is going, the way it's happening today?
I think I think they'd probably like to make sure they sort of put across to them that the reason it got worse was that people didn't listen, to teach people to listen more, if you get what I mean. Like, they're going to try blame it getting worse on the fact people don't listen, just to try and make the generations further down the line listen to people more.
Agreed.
Just as a lesson.
Agreed.
The version that best suits them at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, the victor always tells the story. And unfortunately, I think what we have is a government that's set in place. This is all across the world, you know. The government's set in place to govern that particular nation. And unfortunately, they require scapegoats in order to uphold certain merits. So, for instance, I remember in the UK, before our second lockdown, I feel like everyone that I spoke to, I felt at that point that they were being extra careful with like social distancing, with keeping within their bubble, going, oh no, I can't see you, or I can't be there, I don't want to do this to jeopardize my gran or my sister or my mom or whatever it was. Like, I didn't see my mom for a very long time. And I felt like we were listening, and I'm not sure if you guys have a different opinion.
No, you're right. You're right. A lot of more people was listening.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's got less as it goes on.
Yeah, but I felt like that was the case. But then what happened was, and everyone thought, okay, yes, we are listening, good, so we're going to be all right now. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh no, that's it, everyone's not listening. You know, Boris came on every second week or something and was like, fine, you're not listening, and because you're not listening, I'm gonna have to do this. Look what you've made me do. Like, do you know what I mean? And everyone's like, wait a minute, how? We haven't been going out.
I took daily trips to the post office because that's what my business requires me to do. I have to send out a lot of things. It was a ghost town everywhere. It was nobody on this. It was my brothers didn't see my mum. I didn't see my mum. Every time I spoke to everyone, oh, I haven't seen this, but nobody was hanging out with with anyone. But
Yeah.
then, like you said, they just come out, oh, nobody's
But then-
listening. So that was the narrative that they wanted.
Yeah.
Suppose it does support a, sorry.
No, go on.
No, I suppose it sort of depends who you speak to, because that were the same, like, for example, my parents, my older cousins and stuff, didn't know anyone that was breaking the rules at the start. Like, we were all staying in, not seeing anyone. Everyone they knew was not seeing anyone. But then when I look at what people I knew were doing that were around my age, it were a completely different story. And I'd see every night there'd be literally tens of people together that I knew that had all end up getting shut down and stuff like that. And it was like, when I tell my parents or someone, they'd be like, no, surely not. And I'm like, no, that people my age were doing that, because it's like, it's like they just couldn't be without it, if you know what I mean. It was summer, and then even though, like you say, that lockdown was possibly better in some ways, as in you could go outside in the sun, and now, like, I don't know if you can even hear it, but the rain on my roof is so heavy, you literally can't even leave because it's just bad weather all the time. Even in summer, when it was a better lockdown to be on your own, I still knew so many people that were like going out together in massive groups in people's house apartments. But then, like I say, my parents didn't know anyone that was doing it. So it's just like the age, I think, did like impact it a lot.
Yeah,
I think so. I think it's
Fair
definitely an age thing, but it's just like one of those where if you're doing it, because like I said, I think it's all very dodgy, but I still adhere to it. But if you're like on your own, like I spent 3 weeks on my own, totally alone, and I started to get really like angry about it. It's like, okay, these people are going to house parties, and I'm sitting here thinking I want to end myself because I'm not talking to anyone. Like literally for days without actually seeing a person, and like and I was losing the plot. Like,
it makes you feel like what you're doing is pointless, doesn't it, when you saw other people doing that?
What confuses me though is when I see like when I've like a lot of Americans in like Atlanta, I've seen a lot of the rappers from Atlanta. They're still doing. It's like there's no pandemic.
Yeah.
But how are we worse than them then? If we're not throwing big massive concerts and stuff like that, I'm seeing thousands of people in one room.
But what's the crisis in America? But in America, have they got a lot of cases? Are the cases rising severely?
Well, apparently we're the worst one. We've got a new strain of it and stuff like that. So, which is confusing because there's no concerts over here.
Yeah. It's okay. So just sort of coming to an end. I'll take everyone's final points, but I think my kind of final question is like, is lockdown the way forward? Do you feel like the lockdown has helped in any way? Do you feel like this was the right thing to do? And if not, I guess what? And if yes, then fine.
I mean, I think if the vaccine works, then yes, but if it doesn't, then we're no further forward. I mean, all I want to open is the barbers and the gym, then I'll be happy no matter what, to be fair.
Definitely. What about the rest of you guys?
I think from the numbers that get put out, because that's all you can comment on really, and you don't know anything else to comment on. From that, you see there's a slight work, but then you don't know, like a lot of people are asking for the first lockdown that it should have been a more fuller lockdown, more stricter, with less businesses open, less shops open, stuff like that. Like, but then now there's even more. Like, I could go to B&M tomorrow and go buy a candle if I really wanted to, and that's not essential. But you couldn't do that in the first lockdown, and you sort of like, why could they shut it then and not now? And also, should they have shut more then, and would it have worked better if it had gone on? Like, would you argue that you'd have happily have done the first one a lot longer to not have to do any more ever? Like a longer, stricter one to never have to do it again, or are you happy in shorter, linear ones more often? Yeah,
because it doesn't seem, obviously it's not, and I know that this isn't the topic for it, but when it comes to an individual sort of mental health, I don't care what anyone says, like these four walls can drive you crazy. Like on a day-to-day, I'm fine. Like I'm doing my work. I'm engaging with clients. I've got my family here. On a normal day, it's fine. But there are days in which I sit there and I'm like, oh my days, it gets to me. Like this is, you know what I mean? Like I've actually been indoors for how many days now? And I've literally just got to get in the car and have a 20-minute drive just to see something more than my four walls, because it isn't, I'm very close to my sister. I'm very close to my mum. And we'll see each other on a regular basis. I've got friends, close-knit friends that we used to play badminton with, and all this sort of stuff helped me, I guess, keep my mentality in check, which then made work fine, which then made home life fine. So this has a massive impact, I think, on just more than oh, we're just in a lockdown, or oh, it's the pandemic, but on individuals. And this is someone who, I mean, I'd like to think that I've got stronger I guess resilience when it comes to my mentality being broken than a lot of people that I know as well, let alone for individuals who are locked down alone, or in worse off situation when they haven't got family, or they have got family but they don't get on with, and all sorts of stuff. So I mean, imagine.
I mean, I live alone. If you don't want to count my 2 cats that I've got, I live alone. My family is abroad. They're all in Germany. So really in Spain, I'm practically alone. I've got lots of friends here, but at the same time as well, in Spain, we're not even locked down. As bad as the numbers are here right now, we're not even locked down. We have got restrictions. We've also got a curfew, which goes from 10 p.m. till 6 a.m., which I don't really personally understand either, because for me, COVID doesn't have a timetable, but whatever. I've got a home office. I've been working at home since April every day. And I try, like you said, I try to stay as safe as possible by also not going really out unless really necessary, say supermarket or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And the only thing really that bothers me is I am actually a fan of flying. Every 2 months, I actually go to Germany and see my family, used to before COVID. Now, I haven't seen them since July 2019. And but I think as well, it's somehow how you organize yourself. You have to be also able to kind of entertain yourself at home. It's like, yes, I start to miss my family. I take my phone, I video chat with them, I call them. Apart from that, also what I try, because of course it's bad not being able to open the door and go outside whenever you want. For example, I've got a group of friends who we go and play tennis with once a week. We can't do that, although we're not locked down, but the gyms are all closed, so we can't go there. And those are the things that I miss. But I try to keep the routine, my daily routine, as close as possible as it was before COVID, so that I don't really notice those huge changes.
Yeah. That's that
I can do anyway, at least in my case.
So what about the rest of you? What would you leave the viewers or the rest of us with, in terms of, I guess, your last bit of opinion on the subject, or even if it's just how to cope with the current situation, or how have you been coping, really?
I just stay busy, and I would say just stay busy as you can be. Don't just sit there and watch TV all day. Just try and exercise your mind and read and do things like that, and just ask questions at the same time as well. Don't just listen to what you're told. If you feel like there's something doesn't make sense, try and make sense out of it if you can. If you can't, then it never will make sense to you. Just don't let it get on top of you, basically. That's my only advice. That's how I've been dealing with it.
Try and do some exercise, physical exercise, home workouts, go on walks, that kind of thing. Like you say, go on a drive. Drives always, I think drives are quite good. But yeah, obviously I find it difficult maybe for people on furlough. I suppose easy for me because I can work, so that keeps my mind stimulated. But if you've been on furlough, you're just sitting around doing fuck all day, it's going to be quite depressing. What's to get up for in the morning? So yeah, for people on furlough, definitely try and keep your mind active and physical activity. That's what I'd probably say.
Yeah,
Yeah, good
Yeah, it's
advice.
good to have like maybe a structure to your day, like as if you are like whatever you've got planned for that day, even though it's not a lot, make it more than it is. Make it a bit more exciting, like big it up a bit more.
Yeah,
You know, I find it helpful to have like a to-do list or like a plan for my day, just so that I can like, you know, feel better about myself when I think, oh, I've got that done, I'll tick that off. And you can sort of see a structure to your day, time that you wake up every day, even if you're not doing anything, it does end up making you more productive, you know, simple stuff like making your bed, even though you might just get back in it after dinner, stuff like that, just to make, because like I'm on furlough, but obviously I'm studying, but my exams are cancelled, so there's not much to actually work towards. So it all
yeah,
feels a bit pointless, like what am I actually doing that's going towards anything?
yeah.
So like Kammy said, it's good to have like something like reading really helps, puzzles, anything like that, just to keep your mind going.
Yeah.
That's it.
I would say if you can, if you are not allergic, getting a pet. I got 2 cats during COVID and they literally helped me so much. It's kind of crazy.
What
But
are the names?
sorry, what?
What are the names?
One is named Orchata and one is named Mimi.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah. They're not here because
I'm actually looking for a dog now.
yeah, yeah.
Chocolate.
Having a pet is a wonderful thing during COVID, and I saved them. You know, they were one was a stray litter, and one was being given away. She was going to go to the pound or the So
Nice.
I basically saved for both of them, and it's been wonderful. But I would say also just having a goal. I mean, I'm a musician, and like even though I'm not as performing as much, I do get gigs here and there. But being able to
Nice.
practice, and like at one point I was taking piano lessons during the pandemic, that it really just, you know, art is therapy. I think art is if you're not pursuing it professionally, it is a form of therapy. And I teach so many voice students, and it really lifts them up, you know. And I teach piano to a lot of people too, and it lifts them up a lot. So I would say taking up a hobby, some sort of
Good
artistic
idea.
thing,
Yeah,
is a good idea during COVID.
very good idea. Definitely got the time
Basically,
to
but
do it.
one, can I just say one thing? It's just basically like that thing that you've always wanted to do that you
Yeah,
never had time to do. Just try and do that.
Yeah.
yeah.
Try and put as much time into that as you can, because you know you got the
Yeah.
time now. So.
And there are many like free like resources. Like I'm a teacher for like an organization that provides free lessons for kids, you know, so like you just have to really look for it. Um and it's out there, especially now with Zoom. Zoom kind of makes everything more accessible.
Yeah, sure.
So yeah, that's what I have to say. Just try to do something you've always wanted to do.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Who else we got?
No, I think at the moment, just try and control what you can do, because if you start thinking about the government, what they're doing, what other people are doing with house parties, who's adhering to, who's not, you'll drive yourself mad. So what I've found, what helps me cope, is just think about, okay, well, what can I control today or in my life, and what can I do just on myself? And that sort of just gain focus, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, true. Did we all say yeah?
Yeah, I think we all do.
So, yeah.
I think for me it's very important to try and maintain some level of communication, you know, with individuals. So as some of you mentioned, whether it's phone calls or video chats or anything like that, just to keep that. So I mean, we're social beings, you know. So it's definitely hard. I know a lot of the times we tend to, especially in the winter, we tend to not go out as much. But there's something about not being able to do something that makes you just want to do it that much more. You know, it's raining outside, it's cold, and you'll normally say to your friends, not today, sorry. You know, but there's something about not being able to do it that makes you miss doing it that much more. But yeah, as you've mentioned, what we can do is I guess control what we can do at the moment, and do whatever it takes to make us happy. Because at the moment, that's, to me, I think that's the number one thing. Just do whatever it takes to make us happy, and in the process, if you can make someone else happy, If you know that someone needs that phone call to cheer them up for that 15 minutes, that will make their day, or, you know, sending something, someone receives a gift from you or so forth, you know, think little things like that will make a difference. But here we are coming towards the end of January, and we're in 2021, the year in which a lot of people said, "Oh, I can't wait for 2020 to be over," and it just seems like a continuation. And it definitely is. Where are we going to be, I guess, as the year goes by? I have no idea. One can only hope that, you know, we're in a better place than we are now, regardless of what order that's under. But you know, we can't carry on like this much longer. But yeah, I think we've got a lot of food for thought. I think a lot of us have definitely said a lot and listened a lot, and hopefully those who are watching will definitely be able to kind of resonate with some of the stuff that we've said. But if you just let the guys know where they can find you on the socials, for whatever reason they want to contact and get in touch, just yeah, let them know.
Everywhere, Ads Roberts with 3 Zs.
Roberts, 3 Zs.
And the rest, yep, go on. Anyone else?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Macy, that's MACY, and then Edward.
Nice.
You can find me on Instagram, Linda Ritza, RITZ as in zebra A.
Nice.
I am Lil Spanish Song, Lil as in LIL, Spanish Song, all in one.
Nice.
I'm at Kammy, that's at KAMMY __. So that's 2 underscores.
Because one wasn't enough.
Oh.
Muted. I think you're
Muted, God, yeah. I'm Spanish 93 _.
And that's on the Insta.
Yeah, on Insta.
Brilliant. Okay, guys. Well, I think. Well,
Oh, sorry. I'm at official Kammy. Sorry.
Official.
Kammy __.
I think what I'll do is I'll just put the I'll put your ads in the description so people can grab it there. But hopefully we don't have another lockdown 4.0 conversation or another COVID-19 pandemic talk. And we'll just have I don't know, some sort of celebratory kind of chat to catch up. But thank you very much for joining me, guys. It's been a pleasure.